Chapter 91. Killing Miao Xiu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91. Killing Miao Xiu. Lost. I have lost. Miao Xiu looked at the person on the disc and was extremely shocked. At this moment, he lost his composure and fell down the stairs. How is that possible? He has a weakness in his heart. He shouldn't be able to ascend the stairs of ascension. How did he do it? Once someone who was ascending the stairs of ascension had an obvious weakness, they were not allowed to go up. They would be stopped. However, this person still managed to reach the top. He could not understand why the other party could go up. This shouldn't be happening. He won. Someone in the square suddenly felt that it was unreal. The disciple of the 9th summit had won. Furthermore, it was an overwhelming victory. Although he had also paid a huge price. He has really won. The heavenly human race has lost. Didn't the heavenly human race say that there was no one in Kunlun? Can they still say the same now? Even if all the geniuses of Kunlun have gone out, it's still not a place where your heavenly human race can challenge. Do you think there's a problem with the 9th summit's junior brother? He seems to be bleeding. The sudden voice startled everyone. Yes, Jiang Lan's injuries were severe. Jing Ting moved and planned to fly up to take a look. But he soon gave up. This was because a middle-aged man had appeared in the sky. He was dressed in navy blue and had a distinct side profile. His deep eyes were filled with gratification. Mo Jingdong appeared beside Jiang Lan at once, and then an aura enveloped him. He was treating Jiang Lan's injuries. Thank you for your hard work, Mo Jingdong said calmly as he looked at the injured Jiang Lan. Before Jiang Lan could say anything, Mo Jingdong waved his hand and sent Jiang Lan back to rest. Mo Jingdong left with Jiang Lan. The others also heaved a sigh of relief. However, they still won. A lot of people didn't show up for this match. I'll go spread the word. I'm sure they'll regret it. The heavenly human race will finally return. Jing Ting heaved a sigh of relief. I shouldn't embarrass myself in front of junior brother Jiang in the future by competing with him in such an aspect. It's time to go back now. If we don't go back now, we will have inner demons. Jing Ting's voice was very loud. Many people had heard what Jing Ting said. At this moment, many people became scared. Especially those with low cultivation bases. Only now did they remember that this was the 9th summit. They could not even get close to it. After staying here for so long, it was hard to say if their mind was still alright. At this moment, they stopped mocking the heavenly human race and left the 9th summit immediately. Lin Xia also left immediately. She was going to find her senior sister and tell her the good news. However, the 9th summit's junior brother was indeed severely injured. Elder Miao, do you want to stay for 2 more days? Feng Yixiao asked with a smile. At this time, Miao Tian had already brought Miao Xiu back and was planning to leave Kunlun on the same day. No need. You don't need to send me off, fellow Taoist Feng. Miao Tian drove his flying Dharma treasure away from Kunlun. His facial expression did not look good. Feng Yixiao watched as Miao Tian left. He took a few more glances. Finally, he turned around and went back. At this time, Jiang Lan had already been sent to his residence. His master had told him to rest and treat his injuries. He also gave him a healing pill. He would recover the next day after eating it. I'm going out for a while. That night, Mo Jingdong, who saw that Jiang Lan was fine, said something to Jiang Lan before leaving the 9th summit. Jiang Lan's injuries were not light. He had been recuperating all day. The elixirs that his master gave him were indeed good. Otherwise, he would have to use his own pills. The final strike had severely injured him. As expected, he couldn't be too casual even if he was at the void refinement realm. In the middle of the night, Jiang Lan opened his eyes. He exhaled. It's almost done. Jianlan didn't know what his master was doing. There was a high chance that he went to get him a present. He had won today and it was counted as an affair worth celebrating. However, his injuries were a little serious. But, he frowned at the ceiling. I still feel like someone is staring at me. It feels blurry but someone is definitely staring at me full of killing intent. It feels familiar. It should be Miao Xiu's. This was Kunlun. The other party might not dare to come here, but they might act when he went down the mountain. And this feeling should have come from the feedback of his one-leaf vision. It was very dark outside, so there shouldn't be anyone outside. After some hesitation, Jianlan closed his eyes again. He needed to continue healing. He wanted to recover to his peak state. When Jianlan opened his eyes again, the sun was already shining into the house. And the feeling of being stared at was still there. Jianlan stood up. He tried to simulate what could happen. His 9 steps of heavenly travel should be able to help him escape danger. There were also some runic Dharma treasures as backup. This time, he had specially prepared 3 immortal binding ropes, pseudo. Without any hesitation, he left his house and planned to leave the mountain. I'll also buy a pot of wine when coming back. He wanted to show respect to his master. Before he left, he made a trip to the netherworld cave and watered the vegetative egg with some spirit liquid. After leaving Kunlun, Jianlan's aura had changed. He activated his one-leaf vision. He wanted to cover his tracks and actions. The other party was still looking at the previous him, not knowing what he was doing now. It feels close. He activated his 9 steps of heavenly travel. Jianlan's afterimage scattered with the wind. In a cave somewhere. Miao Xiu looked at the array disc in front of him. This was a Dharma treasure used to lock onto Jianlan's fate. He had interacted with Jianlan before, so he naturally had a way to vaguely lock onto the other party. This type of person cannot be left alive. Even if we have to guard this place for 10 years, we have to eliminate him. Miao Xiu acted alone because the 3 seniors had to return first. If they did not go back, it would raise the alarm of those from Kunlun. However, he was just a small essence soul cultivator. No one would care if he left the party. It was perfectly normal. He had prepared many things and was waiting for the other party to come out. That's strange. Why did he stay at the entrance of Kunlun without coming out? As long as he comes out, I'll be able to kill him at the first possible moment and absolutely not give him any chance to escape. Miao Xiu stared at the Dharma treasure with killing intent. However, his doubts were quickly answered by a voice behind him. That's because that location is shown to you on purpose. The sudden voice caused Miao Xiu's eyes to narrow. He immediately ran forward. He had to put some distance between them. However, he soon discovered a figure in front of him. The opponent did not give him any leeway. The attack had already arrived. A fist. A fist that made his entire body tremble. This fist seemed to have the power to overturn the heavens and destroy the entire world. In this life-and-death crisis, Miao Xiu used all of his defensive Dharma treasures to buy time for him. Boom. Several Dharma treasures clashed with the sudden fist. Boom. Boom. Dharma treasures were destroyed one after another as explosions were heard. In just a few breaths, the fist arrived before Miao Xiu. Meanwhile, right at this time, a radiance appeared in Miao Xiu's eyes, a heaven character forming between his brows. His aura rose. This was the heavenly human race innate secret technique, Heaven-Man Unity. Heaven-Man Unity allowed the user to cross realms and have the cultivation of the next realm. This was their unique talent. That was also why the heavenly human race could increase their cultivation realms. Miao Xiu punched back. Bang! The 2 fists collided. Miao Xiu had absolute confidence, but the moment he touched his opponent's fist, he was stunned. A terrible force struck his arm like a storm. His fist was disintegrating and his bones were crumbling. Ah! Chapter 92. Do I need an explanation to kill you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. Do I need an explanation to kill you? Jiang Lan was able to get a rough idea of the general location of Miao Xiu through his one-leaf vision. Thus, he was able to find Miao Xiu. He was very careful. He activated his one-leaf vision fully to prevent himself from being detected. When he realized that Miao Xiu was alone, he decided to take action. Especially since the other party had already decided to kill him. Jiang Lan would never hold back against such an enemy. After he spoke, he activated his 9 steps of heavenly travel and activated the power of 9 bulls, augmenting it with the spiritual suppression force. Then, while the other party was still stuck in the moment of shock, he attacked. This was the chance to insta-kill him. Boom! The moment Jiang Lan made his move, he discovered that several Dharma treasures had appeared on Miao Xiu's body. Some even appeared automatically. The other party was indeed very cautious. However, Jiang Lan had no intention of stopping. Bang! Bang! Miao Xiu's Dharma treasures were shattered one by one. During this process, he could sense a powerful force emerging from Miao Xiu's body. Secret technique. Boom! When the last Dharma treasure was shattered, Jiang Lan's fist was already facing Miao Xiu. He had thought that Miao Xiu would choose to dodge his attack. The other party had the time to do so. However, Jiang Lan was wrong. The other party chose to fight head-on. Fist against fist. His opponent's power had temporarily reached the void refinement realm. Boom! The entire cave rumbled loudly. This place was quite a distance away from Kunlun, or else it would be easy to be discovered. After one punch, Miao Xiu's arm turned into a bloody mist. He was sent flying as well. Jiang Lan stood where he was without taking a step back. He looked at Miao Xiu, vigilant of his surroundings. There was no sign of anyone else. Miao Xiu clutched his arm that had already turned into a bloody mist, his face somewhat sinister. Who are you? Haven't you always been staring at me? Jiang Lan calmly asked. Before he could finish speaking, he moved again. He wanted to get rid of the other party as soon as possible to prevent any accidents from happening. Hearing Jiang Lan's words, Miao Xiu was stunned. However, he immediately thought of who the other party was. It was just that at this time, Jiang Lan arrived again. Miao Xiu was indifferent to this. He placed one hand in front of him and began to release his strength. Heaven and man as one, invulnerable to all. At that moment, a phantom seemed to envelop Miao Xiu. You actually concealed your cultivation, and even delivered yourself here. Since your first strike didn't kill me, you won't have a chance anymore. As Jiang Lan approached, the power of a void refinement cultivator condensed on his body, and a storm of power swept through Miao Xiu. Boom! His fist struck Miao Xiu's shadow. Miao Xiu looked at Jiang Lan. It was impossible for the other party to break through the myriad of illusionary images. Now was the time for him to torture and kill his opponent. However, when he moved, he suddenly heard a cracking sound. Then, he saw a fist. The fist seemed to have broken through heaven and earth, directly landing on his body. No, that's impossible. How can you break my illusionary figure? However, Jiang Lan's fist shattered his 10,000 illusory projections. The fist went straight for his head. No, don't. I admit defeat. Bang! A punch flew past. Blood mist scattered. Half of Miao Xiu's body was turned into a bloody mist by this punch. Jiang Lan retracted his fist. This is not a challenge match, but a life and death duel. Looking at the lifeless Miao Xiu, Jiang Lan muttered softly. Since the other party wanted to kill him, there was no way he would hold back. After confirming the other party's death, Jiang Lan immediately left. He had to leave this place to prevent anyone from discovering this place. At the foot of Kunlun, Jiang Lan appeared on the main road and walked slowly. Only then did he begin to think about Miao Xiu. The heavenly human race definitely isn't simple. They actually have a secret method to temporarily raise their cultivation. I need to pay more attention to such cases in the future. However, Miao Xiu had tried to kill me. This means that the heavenly human race might not have taken a liking to me. His performance on the stairway to heavens should have been too extraordinary. Even if the heavenly human race could tolerate him, they still wouldn't be friendly towards him. Moreover, Miao Xiu's death would be discovered sooner or later. At that time, even more people would notice him. After all, he had defeated Miao Xiu. However, no one would suspect him. It seems like when I am crossing the tribulation, I need to avoid the heavenly human race and stay far away from them just in case. During the match, his performance was indeed quite eye-catching. However, it was all within his supposed capabilities. There was no need to take it to heart. After that, Jiang Lan stopped thinking about it and continued hiding in the 9th summit to cultivate. Some distance away from Kunlun, a large ship flew in the sky. Did you see the disciple from the 9th summit? Miao Tian asked the other two. Breaking the record and ascending the stairway to heavens. Even if his talent is lacking, he cannot be looked down upon. This is especially the case for our heavenly human race. We have to be careful of him. The other party had gone through the final test, so he might be able to sense the other chapters of the Empyrean scripture. Once he obtains the Empyrean scripture, no one knows what will happen. Li Ji's voice was low. Jiang Lan's existence really surprised them. If this person was from the heavenly human race, they would be ecstatic. But the other party was from another force. Thus, they could not leave him alive. Not only that, he had also disrupted their chance to explore the Jade Pool. Let's find a chance to do that when we can. We're not in a hurry to go back, but it's not suitable for us to make a move now, Nanny said. Finding a dark city and making a trip there will do. Li Ji said. Why don't you let me do it for you? A voice suddenly sounded from outside. In that instant, Miao Tian and the others were shocked. Next, they felt that the surrounding space was sealed. Who's there? Miao Tian shouted. The other party had suddenly appeared and even overheard their conversation. At the same time that the other party had come with ill intentions. Who am I? Suddenly, a powerful force roared and shattered the cabin's door. A cold voice sounded. You are thinking about how to harm my disciple, yet you're asking who I am. You guys are really thoughtless. Miao Tian waved his hand, and the broken pieces of wood were separated. A figure appeared outside. Mo Jingdong. Miao Tian looked at the middle-aged man outside with a gloomy expression. What does Kunlun want? Stupid question. Mo Jingdong looked at Miao Tian and said coldly. Isn't my intention obvious enough? A powerful force erupted from Mo Jingdong's body. It was as if he wanted to destroy everything. Mo Jingdong, you dare to kill us. We are in the vicinity of Kunlun. How are you going to explain this to the heavenly human race? Li Ji stared at Mo Jingdong and said gloomily. Explanation. Mo Jingdong looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Do you think you are children? Do I have to give an explanation after you all have died? Do you think Kunlun belongs to your family, fellow Taoist Mo? Miao Tian looked at Mo Jingdong coldly. We aren't enemies. Isn't it too much to kill us? Ha! Mo Jingdong suddenly laughed and said. What a joke. Could it be that I can only take revenge on you after you kill my disciple? Foolish. Boom. At this moment, Mo Jingdong's power erupted. Heaven and earth rumbled and lightning wreaked havoc on the ship, as if lightning descended from the 9 heavens. Boom. In an instant, the entire ship was covered by lightning. Then, it vanished into thin air. However, the illusionary figure of the heavenly human race suddenly appeared, and a massive figure took over heaven and earth. Mo Jingdong, do you really think you can kill us? Chapter 93. Say your last words. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. Say your last words. Miao Tian's 10,000 phantoms technique was activated. The lightning was wreaking havoc around him, but it could not hurt him at all. At the side, Li Ji and Nan Yi's attacks also started to appear. The 3 of them wanted to kill Mo Jingdong together. Mo Jingdong looked at the 3 of them. There was lightning around him. How many immortal spells have you guys learned? How far have you people gone along the path of the great Tao? We haven't learned much, nor have we walked far. Nan Yi tried to open his eyes. At this moment, the power of heaven and earth started to diminish. Sounds began to fade. Color began to fade. A black and white eye appeared behind him. Empyrean scripture. Heaven and earth, yin and yang. At this moment, Li Ji took a step forward and his body began to expand. Flames flowed around his body as scorching flames began to erupt. As if it could melt everything. Furious Colossus. Let me experience the strength of the 9th summit leader of Kunlun. Li Ji's hands moved downwards. There was a tremor in the air, as though the ground was collapsing. Blazing fire burning heaven. At this moment, countless cracks appeared in the sky as flames gushed out from the cracks. Flames soared into the sky and incinerated the heavens and the earth. What a childish spell. Mo Jingdong did not dodge at all. He landed an attack directly at the crack in the flames. Then, a gust of wind blew past and the towering flames dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. Is this the heavenly human race's strength? Feel free to use whatever moves you have. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Mo Jingdong looked at Miao Tian and the others and said calmly. He stood there like a towering mountain. It was difficult for the power of others to affect him. However, the lightning energy that belonged to Mo Jingdong continued to spread outward. Miao Tian looked at Mo Jingdong coldly and said. Use your full strength, or it will be difficult for you to leave. Then, Miao Tian pressed his palms together, and countless spell techniques began to appear among his projections. Wind, rain, lightning, and fire. Thousands of spell techniques began to attack Mo Jingdong. Li Ji soared into the sky as a gargantuan array formation appeared in the sky, revealing a trail of flames. Heaven man's fury, incineration of all things. At this moment, Mo Jingdong's position was constantly being invaded by the colors of black and white. Mo Jingdong looked at all the attacks and shook his head. Then, he slowly extended his hand. Immortal spell. 5 elements cloud transformation. An immortal rune appeared in front of Mo Jingdong, and 5 rays of light shot out. Boom. 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 The 5 beams of light continuously collided with the attacks of Miao Tian and the others. A streak rushed into the horizon, resisting the raging flames that descended from the heavens. A streak shot towards the black and white energy, directly breaking through the yin-yang eye. 3 streaks of light surged towards Miao Tian. He continued to attack Miao Tian's 10,000 phantoms. The collision of power was unstoppable. Boom. The flames in the sky were shattered and Li Ji was sent flying, vomiting blood. How can he be so strong? Li Ji found it hard to believe. At this moment, the yin and yang of heaven and earth shattered. Nan Yi closed his eyes again, and traces of blood and tears appeared in his eyes. The Empyrean Scripture Chapter. Heaven and earth yin and yang, that he had cultivated for so long, had shattered just like that. 3 beams of light shot toward Miao Tian. Boom! Pooh! His phantoms shattered, and Miao Tian retreated with heavy injuries. In just a single move, the 3 heavenly human race individuals were directly seriously injured, and it was difficult for them to resist anymore. The difference between the 2 parties were worlds apart. Mo Jingdong looked at the 3 people and said coldly, "That's it. Then say your last words." Miao Tian struggled to maintain flight as he looked at Mo Jingdong. "If you really kill us, don't you have to bear any responsibility? Once Kunlun finds out, do you think you can stay at Kunlun peacefully? Would the heavenly human race let you go? Let us go. I swear that I will never attack your disciple. We have no blood feud with you guys. Are you done?" Mo Jingdong asked. "Are you really not afraid?" Miao Tian asked. "There is a prerequisite for your question," Mo Jingdong said calmly. "Prerequisite?" Miao Tian frowned. "You said it yourself, that is if anyone finds out." Mo Jingdong walked past Miao Tian and the others. At this moment, the lightning enveloped everything. The explosion of power was unprecedented. If no one knows, everything will be fine. The 3 were terrified. They felt the aura of death approaching them. Boom! The lightning exploded, destroying everything. Then, Mo Jingdong turned around and left. When the power subsided, there was nothing left in the sky. Jiang Lan went to the inn to buy some wine. It was still early if he returned to the 9th summit now, so he planned to take care of the main hall. I wondered if anyone cleaned up after the fight yesterday. I'd have to do it if no one has done so. There were several large pits in the main hall square. No matter how one looked at it, it did not seem appropriate. "Big brother, I have a question for you." Jiang Lan, who was about to leave, suddenly stopped. It was that youth. "What is it?" Jiang Lan asked. Theoretically, he should be able to answer the other party's questions. "Big brother, can humans have spouses after they turn 18? The youth looked at Jiang Lan and asked seriously. "In theory, yes." Jiang Lan nodded. In theory, that was true. But sometimes the truth always goes beyond theory. "Then can I look for one if I want to?" The young man asked again. "I don't think so." Jiang Lan looked at the youth and gave an uncertain answer. This young man looked like a child no matter how Jiang Lan looked at him. Isn't it too early for him to find a Tao companion? After that, the young man walked back dejectedly. Jiang Lan didn't mind it and returned to the 9th summit. There were many things waiting for him to do. Furthermore, he had to return to continue cultivating. Although he was at the void refinement realm currently, he still felt that he wasn't safe. He had to continue cultivating to prevent himself from encountering enemies that overpowered him in the future. After all, the heavenly human race might notice him at any time. Back at Kunlun, Jiang Lan met some disciples. "Have you heard? Many people have developed inner demons." "I heard about it. They're all newcomers who went to the 9th summit. They did not have the strength to go to the 9th summit yet they still chose to do so. Were they sick of living? It seems that they were too excited that day, allowing inner demons to invade their hearts. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so exaggerated. Is a special place like the 9th summit really something a person can stay in? It's really not easy for it to actually have a disciple. It's indeed not easy. I heard that the 9th summit only has one disciple, and he even defeated the member from the heavenly human race. He's very powerful. I wouldn't dare to go." Jiang Lan listened to their conversation and didn't speed up or slow down. He headed towards the 9th summit steadily. Although there were more people who knew him, it was still relatively few. It would not affect him from going out. Bnoel.m behind Kunlun. Ao Longyu looked at the recording Dharma treasure sent by Lin Xia and remained silent. She was very surprised that it was her junior brother from the 9th summit who won the challenge. This prevented her from having to fight with Miao Xiu. When she saw the record, she was shocked. Jianlan did not panic in the face of danger. His heart was calm, and his expression did not change even when the situation seemed extremely threatening to him. This was not something that ordinary disciples could accomplish. Ao Longyu then activated the jade pool's essence, condensing it into a bead in her hand. Then, with the help of the jade pool, she sent it to the 9th summit. Even though no one else knew about it, she still owed Jianglan a favor. Junior sister, have you found the Dharma treasure that has the recording of myself? Ao Longyu looked at Lin Xia. Chapter 94. The thing is with Jianlan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. The thing is with Jianlan. Hearing this question, Lin Xia felt a little embarrassed. Not long ago, she had advanced to the Essence Soul realm. Thus, she actually had the time to go find out the whereabouts of the item. But she hadn't gotten that thing yet. Actually, I already roughly know who it is with, Lin Xia said. Ao Longyu looked at Lin Xia expressionlessly. It was as if she was not asking anything but just looking at her. I heard that it was with the first summit's Jingting and thus went to ask him about it. Lin Xia looked at Ao Longyu and said. In the end, the answer was that. The item is currently with the junior brother of the 9th summit. However, with the current situation of junior brother, I don't dare to look for him. Ao Longyu looked at Lin Xia before turning to look at the 9th summit. She felt that she had missed the chance to get her thing back. If she had asked junior sister Xia to bring the bead over in exchange for the recording Dharma treasure, there was still a chance that she could get it back. Looks like I'll have to wait a few days. I hope that it hasn't been opened. Ao Longyu muttered to herself. Soon, Jianlan returned to the 9th summit. He looked at the square in front of the main hall and realized that he really needed to repair it himself. Fortunately, it was not troublesome. After filling up the hole, Jianlan went to look for the required stones. He had to go to other places in the sect to get them. Or he had to find and polish the rocks himself. Jianlan planned to polish it herself and draw some runes on them along the way. This would strengthen the quality of the floor. At the very least, it was unlikely that a huge hole would be formed from a single strike. Doing so could prevent frequent maintenance. This matter was not urgent. He decided that he would just do it tomorrow. He would recover first today and then see if anyone still had their eyes on him. Miao Xiu was dead. But those 3 immortals were still alive. He couldn't rule out the possibility that they knew Miao Xiu was here to kill him. He had to recover first. When Jianlan returned to the Netherworld cave, he sat down cross-legged. Then, he opened the goddess diagram to cultivate. Jianlan was stunned when he opened the goddess diagram. What had just happened? Under normal circumstances, he should still have quite a bit of the essence in the goddess diagram. Even if he had become an immortal, it would still be beneficial to one's cultivation. The rate of accumulation of the essence should have exceeded the rate of consumption. In theory, there shouldn't be a situation where it was empty. But it was gone again. Has something happened to the jade pool? Jianlan then looked for Ao Longyu and discovered that she was still lying weakly by the lake. The problem definitely lies with Ao Longyu, but I will need to ask her what the problem is. But it was impossible for him to do so. Subsequently, Jianlan ate a pill that he had just gained from signing in. He began cultivating. The next day. Ding! Signed in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the gift of the Great Tao. You have obtained the medicinal pill, the Void Spirit Pill. Void Spirit Pill. High-grade pill. Meant for the spirit. It can be used to increase the cultivation base of a void refinement cultivator. The moment Jianlan opened his eyes, he had conveniently signed in. The Void Spirit Pill was a very common pill for cultivators who had reached the Void Refinement realm. Occasionally, there would be spells, Dharma treasures, and runes. However, most of the time, it would be pills meant for one at the Void Refinement realm. If I have the time, I should sign in somewhere else. Perhaps I could receive something different. If I can go to the Jade Pool, I might receive something good. He felt that his reward of signing in the second time at the Jade Pool would be pretty good too. However, Jianlan didn't plan to go now. Right now, he should focus on improving his strength. This was especially the case when he might be targeted by the heavenly human race. He could protect himself only if he was strong enough. However, he didn't feel like he was being stared at anymore throughout the whole night. There were two possibilities. The first was that the other party no longer targeted him. The second was that the other party was not staring at him like how Miao Xiu did. If it was so, he wouldn't be able to feel anything. His current strength was not strong enough. If he was strong enough, he would be able to know the moment someone was trying to find out something about him. The second possibility was higher. Jianlan didn't know what the heavenly human race would do next. There was no need for him to think too much about it now. After all, he was not prepared to go out. Hence, they could not threaten him. He would think about it when he went out to transcend the tribulation. During these years, he would learn a bit more about the heavenly human race's situation. By doing so, he won't be as clueless as he first was when he met them. After leaving the Netherworld cave, Jianlan arrived at the place where the stones were placed. Boom! There was a loud bang. Jianlan cut off the boulder and began to use various spell techniques to cut it into pieces. Then, he moved the items to the square in the main hall. When he ascended the stairway to heavens, his mind had been slightly affected and he had still yet to fully recover. Doing such things could calm his heart. Therefore, it was not a bad thing for him to start cultivating only a few days later. Instead, there would be many benefits. Especially after yesterday's cultivation, he could sense a slight change. When he reached the square, Jianlan was a little surprised. It was not because the square had been repaired. Instead, there was a familiar blue bead floating above the square. The bead seemed to have come from behind Kunlun. There was a faint trail of light. This came from the Jade Pool. Jianlan was a little surprised and reached out his hand. Come. Spirit language spell. As soon as he finished speaking, the blue bead fell from the sky and landed quietly in Jianlan's palm. Essence of all things. When he saw the bead, Jianlan knew what it was. This bead could only be condensed by Ao Longyu, who was the Jade Pool goddess. But why did this bead appear in the 9th summit? According to the traces he had seen, it was most likely sent by Ao Longyu. So, once Ao Longyu condenses a bead, the goddess diagram can't be used. Jianlan instantly thought of the goddess diagram. The last time he couldn't use it was because Ao Longyu had condensed a bead for him. This time, it could not be used again after another bead had just been condensed. There must be a connection between the two. Jianlan discovered that there was a flaw in the goddess diagram, which was that when Ao Longyu condensed a bead, all of the essence within it would be extracted out as well. And he could not extract the other party's essence. Then he focused on the bead. Why would Ao Longyu give him the bead again? After pondering for a moment, he understood. Miao Xiu wanted to challenge Ao Longyu, but Ao Longyu was weak because she had advanced too quickly. She was no match for Miao Xiu. Once the Jade Pool goddess was defeated, the effects would be significant. However, this crisis was unintentionally ended by Jianlan. Regardless of what others thought, Ao Longyu chose to accept this kindness. Therefore, he gave him the bead. With this thought in mind, Jianlan put away the bead. He had no reason not to accept it. With the help of the bead, his future cultivation would not be limited to consuming medicinal pills. Netherworld aura, medicinal pills, and the essence of all things. He had the supplement of these three things. It should be able to pull him closer to becoming an immortal. After that, Jianlan began to polish and repair the square. Of course, he was also pondering how to inscribe the array formation onto the slabs of rock. He didn't know much about array formations. However, he knew a thing or two about how to make the square be able to withstand an attack. It was not to strengthen the defense. It was better to divert than to block. He could use a diversion array formation. It would absorb the power and transfer it elsewhere. With this thought in mind, Jianlan started working. 5 days passed in a flash. At that moment, there was no longer a huge pit in the 9th summit square. Jianlan stood on the repaired square and examined it. If it accumulates too much energy from the attacks, it might explode. I should add some energy-consuming array formations. Jianlan then set up a defensive formation and an offensive formation. Because his attainment was not high enough, he only inscribed some minor array formations. After that, he would slowly add more when he knew more. Chapter 95. It's inevitable someone wants to get rid of the 9th summit's disciple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. It's inevitable someone wants to get rid of the 9th summit's disciple after he was done with the plaza. Jianlan continued to clean the hull. After that, he returned to the netherworld cave to continue cultivating. His heart had calmed down. Cultivating wouldn't pose any obstruction. Of course, he still had to familiarize himself with his current realm. He wanted to familiarize himself with all the spells and dharma treasures he had. This was something he would do every time he raised his cultivation. Master. When he returned to the netherworld cave, Jianlan saw his master waiting for him inside. Are you finished with your work? Mo Jingdong turned to Jianlan. Yes. Jianlan nodded. He had indeed finished his work on the 9th summit. However, he was curious as to why his master did not go to the main hall to look for him. Instead, he had come to the netherworld cave. Mo Jingdong took out a small black flower and said, I saw that you liked planting potted plants all these years, so I went out to find you a seed that can survive in the netherworld cave. This flower is called a Adumbra flower. It has a long lifespan and can be raised by you for a long time. Jianlan took the flower and asked curiously. Didn't Master say seed? They've already sprouted on the way back. They grew up along the way, Mo Jingdong explained. Jianlan was silent. He felt that his master was worried that he would encounter a seed that would not germinate. Thus, he had tried to use a spell to hasten the growth process. The Adumbra flower will absorb the netherworld aura and reduce the influence of the netherworld aura, Mo Jingdong explained. Jianlan was silent. He did not need the netherworld aura to be reduced. However, the effect of this flower should be minimal. He decided that he would just keep it. He would treat it as a companion for the vegetative egg. After that, Jianlan planted the flower beside the vegetative egg. Mo Jingdong left after that. Jianlan had his own limits when it came to doing things, so he didn't need too many explanations. Besides, since the netherworld cave hadn't erupted, there was no need to worry about it. Jianlan's injuries have long been healed. Jianlan watched his master leave. After watering the vegetative egg and the Adumbra flower with some spiritual liquid, he began to cultivate. This time, no one would disturb him. Jianlan used the bead filled with the essence of the jade pool once again. This time, no one should know about the bead. Therefore, there was no need to worry about being targeted. However, it was better not to go out these few years. Time passed. 2 months later, Jianlan woke up in the morning. He had heard some sounds outside Kunlun. It sounded like cheers. It should be the effect of an array formation. Based on the time that had passed, the people who participated in the witch cloud gathering should have returned. Jianlan stood up and walked outside. He wanted to see if that was the case. If it was anything else, he needed to take note of it. In the past 2 months, Jiang Lan had become familiar with most of his spells. He could already proficiently use the power of 9 bulls to the power of 8 bulls. He still couldn't cross the final hurdle for the time being. It was the same for the 9 steps of heavenly travel. His Dharma treasures had also become easier to use. He was also well versed in his other spell techniques. There would be no errors when he cast them. He had also tried out his spirit language spell. It should be very convenient to use it to manage the 9th summit. The vegetative egg was as quiet as ever, while the Adumbra flower probably wasn't used to the netherworld cave. It didn't look very energetic and seemed like it needed some sunlight. After 2 days of sunbathing, however, it seemed even less energetic. He had yet to figure out how to grow it. Raising flowers was more troublesome than raising his vegetative egg. He had just gone out to consult his master. Otherwise, he felt that the Adumbra flower would die in another 2 months. In fact, Jiang Lan still liked plants that didn't need much care. Just like the vegetative egg. He could feel the aura of life from it, but it did not need much trouble to keep it alive. It was easy for him to grow and tend to it. When he walked out of the netherworld cave and arrived at the 9th summit's main hall, Jiang Lan saw a flying Dharma treasure flying into Kunlun. It was the flying Dharma treasure that had left 3 months ago. It seemed that the witch cloud gathering had indeed ended. It doesn't seem to have suffered any attacks. Jiang Lan looked at the flying Dharma treasure and didn't see any damage on it. In other words, he had encountered trouble while hiding in the 9th summit. Meanwhile, those who went out were safe and sound. Things are really unpredictable. Shaking his head, Jiang Lan headed towards the peak of the 9th summit. He didn't care much about accepting challenges. He just didn't like to have any interactions with the outside world and didn't want to appear. But that didn't mean he was afraid. If the 9th summit was involved, he naturally could not back down. However, he would act accordingly. Even the most outstanding disciples were not omnipotent. The Adumbra flower is in a dire state. Mo Jingdong, who was at the peak of the 9th summit, looked at Jiang Lan in surprise. Was the Adumbra flower not easy to raise? When he was out, he had seen others growing it very easily. Yes, master. There should be some details that we have missed out. Jiang Lan replied immediately. Different plants require different soil or temperature for it to grow. Not everything could be as undivided as the vegetative egg. I'll go look for them and ask for their insights. I'll pass them to you in a few days, Mo Jingdong said. He was actually quite worried that he had encountered the same situation as last time. He was afraid that no one knew the answer to his questions again. No one knew what was going on with the vegetative egg previously. The most likely possibility was that it was spoiled. However, he was relieved that Jiang Lan was happy with it. By the way, the people from the Witch Cloud gathering brought back quite a number of good items. They should have left you some. It will come in the next few days. Remember to take them when the time comes, instructed Mo Jingdong. Jiang Lan agreed. However, since the people that went to the Witch Cloud gathering brought back some good stuff, it meant that there was a fight. It was a relief that he didn't go. Otherwise, as some people always liked to bully the weak, he would definitely be picked upon. Amongst those who went to the Witch Cloud gathering, he probably seemed the weakest. After all, on the surface, his cultivation was only at the late stage Golden Core realm. However, no one who entered the sect at the same time as him had a higher cultivation level than him. Thus, he should not advance to the Essence Soul realm so quickly. After everything was settled, Jiang Lan returned to the netherworld cave and decided to continue cultivating. In the pavilion on the 1st summit, there were 2 middle-aged men. One of them stood at the edge of the mountain and looked out of the mountain while the other sat at the side with a cup of tea on the table. No one dared to disturb them. You are saying that after we left, the heavenly human race had come to challenge the Jade Pool goddess. Jiu Zhongtian turned around and looked at Feng Yixiao. The heavenly human race really knows how to pick the time. Feng Yixiao said calmly. Why did we agree? Jiu Zhongtian didn't feel like Kunlun needed to pay attention to the heavenly human race's unreasonable challenge. Feng Yixiao did not answer this question but threw out a piece of jade. It was a recording. Jiu Zhongtian took a look, and then discovered the agreement between the sect master and the heavenly human race. They defeated 8 summits in a row in 3 days. Jiu Zhongtian asked. They could not refuse when the heavenly human race gave them the token given by the sect master. The only person who could refuse was the sect master himself. However, the sect master had been in closed-door seclusion for hundreds of years and had never come out. The summit leaders could only agree. Like a hot knife through butter, Feng Yi said calmly as he sipped his tea. He lost to the 9th summit in the end. What an unexpected failure. The heavenly human race has left. Jiu Zhongtian asked. Upon hearing this question, Feng Yixiao put down the tea in his hand and looked at the wine. Other than Miao Xiu, whose whereabouts are unknown, the remaining 3 have died on the way back and turned into ashes. Jiu Zhongtian was slightly surprised. But he soon understood. Feng Yixiao picked up his tea again and said casually. The disciple of the 9th summit is too outstanding in certain aspects. It's inevitable that someone will want to kill him. Chapter 96. Sensing a murderous intent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. Sensing a murderous intent. Jiu Zhongtian said nothing more. He then asked curiously. Did the heavenly human race not come to question us? They have been very quiet. There has not been a word from them. Feng Yixiao said as he continued to drink the tea on the stone table. I will make another trip to the heavenly human race. Jiu Zhongtian directly said. Is it alright if you do so? Why not? The heavenly human race's elder just died on our side. Now that you're going, you'll be caught in the crossfire. Does it have anything to do with us? Since they wanted to challenge us, we have to challenge them back. Not being able to go back was their problem. This time, it's enough for me to go with Lu Jian, said Jiu Zhongtian directly. Then, Jiu Zhongtian left. Feng Yixiao drank a cup of tea before disappearing. Jiang Lan had always been cultivating. He had spent a month familiarizing himself with his current strength. He would occasionally consume a pill to reinforce his cultivation. He did not spend the entire month on the 9th summit. After hearing his master's suggestion, he decided to take a look around the other parts of Kunlun. He didn't go anywhere special. Hence, he did not gain anything special from signing in. However, he managed to see myriad types of people as well as what they spoke about. He saw others being excited, angry, and jealous. Some were worth learning while some were worth some self-reflection. There was no harm in going out. Especially when there was no danger. Half a month ago, he received 2 Dharma treasures as well, and they were sent over by a senior brother from the 8th summit. He said that his senior brother Lu Jian had specially chosen these for him. They were not the best, but the most suitable. The first item was a copper mirror known as the self-mirror. The effect of it was very straightforward. It could manifest a projection of the user based on the user's cultivation and allow the user to fight against it. According to the 8th summit's senior brother, Jiang Lan rarely went out and lacked experience. He didn't understand what flaws he had, nor did he have any experience in fighting enemies. The self-mirror could help him make up for his shortcomings in this aspect. Jiang Lan agreed with this. However, it was really difficult for him to fight against himself. Using the power of 9 bulls against the power of 9 bulls, who knew what would happen? However, it could be used up till before he became an immortal. He could still use it for a long time. The second item was an 8 trigrams disc. This Dharma treasure was also an auxiliary Dharma treasure. The 8 trigrams disc was mainly used to simulate array formations and reflect the effects of the formation. It would save a lot of materials from experimentation. The senior brother of the 8th summit said that it was a pity to waste his talent in array formations. He could use the array formation to test himself. If he was indeed talented, he could develop in this direction. Jiang Lan agreed. Therefore, he accepted both Dharma treasures. However, it was not very useful at the moment. After all, he was still consolidating his cultivation base and familiarizing himself with spell techniques. A journey must be taken one step at a time. Food must be eaten one bite at a time. Cultivation should be done like this too. It was impossible to master every aspect. There was not enough time. So it was important to follow an order. However, he had heard some things over the past month. The 3 immortals from the heavenly human race that came to Kunlun died. The martial uncle of the 8th summit had brought Lu Jian to the base of the heavenly human race and had yet to return. Jiang Lan stood up and poured some spirit liquid over the Adumbra flower and the vegetative egg. The Adumbra flower was as lifeless as ever, as if it would wither soon. His master had given him the information regarding flowers. He did as he was told, raising it very carefully. But it was still listless. He had no choice. He could only continue to raise it and hope that the flower would survive the ordeal. The vegetative egg did not change much. It was very stable. It had been stable for 100 years and hadn't caused any trouble for Jiang Lan. After doing all of this, Jiang Lan left the 9th summit. He wanted to go out for a stroll. Every time he went to a different place, he made sure he was not noticed. Once someone noticed him, he would leave. However, there were indeed some people who knew him, which made him feel a little troubled. I heard that the martial uncle of the 8th summit has returned, but he's injured. It seems that he was attacked by the demons while coming back. Senior brother Lu Jian was also heavily injured. I've heard a lot about demons recently. I wonder what they are up to. Let's not talk about this anymore. Do you all know the result of the 8th summit's senior brother challenge with the heavenly human race? Results. I've never heard of them, but I've heard that those he challenged were all immortals. He had 1 battle a day and fought for 9 straight days. I think he won 5 matches in a row, and the 6th match was a draw. Jiang Lan left the spot he was at. He had met Lu Jian before. It was the person who had come to greet him initially. However, he was surprised that the other party was so strong. Even if the rumors were slightly exaggerated, he was still considered strong. He had fought with Miao Xiu before. Those from the heavenly human race had extremely great talent. If not for his sneak attack and the other party's arrogance, he would definitely not have been able to kill him in 1 strike. From this, it can be seen that even with talent or trump cards, I cannot underestimate my enemies. Otherwise, Miao Xiu today might be him tomorrow. As his cultivation increased, it became easier for him to underestimate his enemies. However, no one knew how the 3 heavenly human race immortals died. Jiang Lan was confused as well. It definitely looked like someone from Kunlun had acted, but would Kunlun really attack when the other party was so close to Kunlun? It didn't feel like it. It was possible that Kunlun was framed as well. However, my name is most likely known by the heavenly human race. I hope that they won't pay attention to me. Jiang Lan then went somewhere else to continue his stroll. After that, he returned to continue cultivating. However, he suddenly felt someone staring at him from behind. It was a very weak feeling. However, he didn't stop and continued walking. He was prepared to counterattack. Who could it be? Jiang Lan was puzzled as he walked. This was the first time he had been targeted by his fellow disciples in Kunlun. Previously, it had happened in the mystic realm. However, back then, it wasn't solely targeted towards him. Now the other party was specifically targeting him. Jiang Lan didn't return immediately, nor did he look behind him. He maintained his normal speed and the same walking rhythm. However, he would try to walk where there were a lot of people. He had no idea what the other party's cultivation was or what the other party wanted. I don't feel any kindness or malice. However, such a calm gaze is abnormal. Or is he using something else to observe me? Jianglan couldn't confirm who exactly it was, but he couldn't rule out that it was someone from the heavenly human race. There were a bunch of Kunlun spies in Kunlun, so it wasn't impossible for someone from the heavenly human race to be hiding here. After a long time, Jianglan headed towards the 9th summit. There were fewer people on the way back to the 9th summit. The place began to feel remote. There were some places where one would not be discovered if one acted there. Kunlun wasn't small. Most of the summits were barren mountains. Jianglan arrived at a relatively remote area on his sword. At this time, he felt a wisp of killing intent. The moment he sensed the killing intent, the power in his body started to gather. As long as the other party dared to make a move, he would be able to sense the other party's cultivation immediately. He could either kill him with one strike or escape back to the 9th summit. He was unable to detect his opponent's location, so he was either at the Void Refinement Realm or possessed a special Dharma treasure. It was not certain who would win in the fight. However, with the 9 steps of heavenly travel, he could definitely run away to safety. Chapter 97. Lin Xia's Visit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. Lin Xia's Visit. Jianglan floated in midair on his sword. Jianglan maintained his speed without the slightest change. Although he appeared to be in an ordinary state, he was already on high alert. He could gather his strength at any time and enter his battle state. But soon, Jianglan was surprised. Disappeared. Yes, disappeared. In that instant, he had sensed the killing intent. But after the killing intent appeared, not only did he not receive the attack, the feeling of being stared at had disappeared immediately after. Very discreet. I wonder what he thinks. Jianglan didn't turn around, but instead, he chose to continue forward. He felt like the other party should have some misgivings. But he wasn't sure exactly what it was. Was he not confident in killing me directly? Or is it something else? No matter what, he had to be careful when he went out in the future. However, this feeling of being stared at was not good at all. He wanted to find this person and get rid of him. If this happened while he was transcending his tribulation, the problem would be huge. I guess I have to remain unnoticed in the future. I'll have to look for spells that diminish my presence. His one-leaf vision could do this. However, he could not use it openly. He had to find a spell from Kunlun. I'll cultivate first and get rid of the people following me today. Once he sensed the other party's cultivation, he would be able to make a move. After returning to the Netherworld cave, Jianglan started cultivating. He decided to leave the 9th summit every few months. Since he had been targeted, he could only think of a solution. Especially when the other party had revealed his killing intent. If it was just normal tailing, he might just choose to hide in the 9th summit for 100 years. When it was time to transcend the tribulation, he would then go out again. The stars flashed in the skies above the 9th summit. Day and night alternated. A few stars had even landed on the mountains. 3 years passed in a flash. It was morning. Jianglan emerged from the Netherworld cave again. This time he came out with his plants. He was carrying the vegetative egg and the adumbra flower. The adumbra flower was still alive. It was just that it didn't have much energy. He would occasionally take it out to bask in the sun. Its situation did not improve, but it did not worsen either. It just maintained its state. Today was the day for it to bask in the sun. At the same time, he could also let the vegetative egg bask in the sun too. He placed his plants in the courtyard where he lived. After watering them with spirit liquid, Jianglan didn't leave or start taking care of the courtyard. Instead, he took out the self-mirror. This mirror was more effective when used under sunlight. The netherworld cave wasn't a very suitable place for him to use it. Then, Jianlan looked into the mirror with his back facing the sun. The next moment, a beam of light landed on Jianlan's body. His eyes began to distort, as if his consciousness was being sucked into a mirror. A moment later, Jianlan stood on the flat ground, facing a figure of light. It had no appearance, but Jianlan could feel that his opponent's strength was equal to his. However, he tried and found that the other party didn't have his spiritual suppression force. It looked like the mirror could not simulate his divine power. The restrictions on this Dharma treasure were not small. Then, Jianlan made his move. He didn't use any other power except his power of 9 bulls and 9 steps of heavenly travel. The other party also moved. Boom! Boom! The two sides continued to attack, their figures flashing in space. A powerful force whistled past. At this moment, Jianlan felt an air current appear in front of him. It was the eye of the wind storm. Facing the eye of the wind storm, Jianlan didn't hesitate in the slightest and directly punched out. Boom! The storm dissipated, but the other party had already circled behind Jianlan. This was the use of spells. Jianlan knew that he was indeed lacking in this aspect. However, this was not the first time he had faced such a situation. Z. Lightning suddenly appeared behind him. Lightning imprisonment. The moment he trapped the other party. Jianlan's fist struck the light shadow. Bang! The two fists collided. Air ripples could be seen. Jianlan wanted to defeat it with a single punch, and so did his opponent. The wind howled. Both their powers repelled each other. The two sides retreated some distance away from each other. When Jianlan landed, he found traces of lightning on the ground. It wasn't him who had left it there. Not good. Boom! Lightning descended from the sky as thousands of thunderclaps roared. And his feet were tangled by his opponent's lightning imprisonment. Of course, this was not a problem. The problem was that this was set up in advance. The power of 9 bulls came again. Boom! In the courtyard, Jianlan opened his eyes. Lost again. Actually, he could win if he used his divine power. But this would make it an unfair match. When his strength was equal to that of the projection, it was really difficult for him to win. He lacked experience. Thus, he decided to continue the next time. Such training was very effective for him. However, it did not mean that he had to continuously train and learn in such a way. Rather, he had to train in it every now and then after a period of consolidation. With this mirror, if he were to encounter something similar in the future, he would be able to find the corresponding solution immediately. In 3 years, Jianlan had already consolidated his void refinement cultivation base. It wouldn't take long for his power of 9 bulls to reach the highest level. His 9 steps of heavenly travel was still quite far away from full mastery though. He was already familiar with the other spells and had learned everything he needed to learn. He had even studied more on array formations recently. With his newfound knowledge, he had set up quite a number of defensive and offensive formations on the square of the 9th summit. However, it wasn't perfect. If he had any further understanding of it, he would modify it. As for his cultivation on the surface, he had already entered the perfected golden core realm. I have perfected my golden core. In a few years, Master will find a place for me to break through to the essence soul realm. Breaking through to the essence soul realm required some form of training and lots of time. It was similar to advancing to the foundation establishment realm or the golden core realm. When he advanced to the foundation establishment realm, he went to the 3rd summit's mystic realm. When he advanced to the golden core realm, he went to the peaceful void lake. Therefore, his master would definitely find a place for him to advance to the essence soul realm. He could only wait and see what kind of place it was. Jiang Lan didn't really care. Right now, what he needed to care about was the people in the dark. All these years, he had gone out occasionally. However, he would be targeted every time. As long as he was in a remote place. The other party would release killing intent. He should have had the confidence to kill me with a single strike, but he still didn't take action. Why is that so? He has hidden himself very well. I am unable to detect his cultivation. Over the years, Jiang Lan had also cultivated spells that allowed him to go unnoticed. However, he never used it. This was so that he would not alert the enemy. Once he used it, he was worried that the person staring at him would notice. By then, he wouldn't be able to lure them out even if he wanted to. He still had to go out for a walk today to see if there was any way to make the other party give himself away. Of course, the easiest way was to leave Kunlun, but it was somewhat risky. Jiang Lan did not fly on his sword. Instead, he walked out of the 9th summit. While he was walking, he could see if there was anything he needed to tend to in the 9th summit. However, just as he descended the mountain, he met two people. It looked like they were going to the 9th summit. They were not really considered strangers to him. They barely knew each other. One was Jing Ting of the 1st summit, and the other was Lin Xia of the 3rd summit. Is junior brother Jiang going out? Jing Ting was the first to speak when he saw Jiang Lan descend the mountain. Senior brother, senior sister, what's the matter? Jiang Lan asked softly. He did not have much interaction with anyone. There was a high chance that the two of them were here for something. Lin Xia looked at Jiang Lan, not knowing what to say. He could only look at Jing Ting. Jing Ting broke out in a cold sweat and found it difficult to speak. However, when he thought about how his junior brother from the 9th summit had an impressive temperament, he thought that he probably did not mind or care about such a matter. Thus, he became somewhat relieved. Chapter 98. The Little Girl Who Suddenly Appeared. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98. The little girl who suddenly appeared. There are indeed some small matters that I need junior brother's help with, Jing Ting said as he looked at Jiang Lan. Selling the goddess bathing recording was a serious crime. He was also very helpless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come today. Lin Xia had been threatening him. It made him exceptionally uncomfortable. If he had a choice, he would definitely not have accepted that blue recording bead. Then there would be no trouble today. What is it? Jiang Lan asked. He had always been vigilant when it came to helping others. Especially after being followed recently, he was even more vigilant. He just didn't show it. It was easy to alert the enemy. Junior brother, do you still remember the aqua blue bead I gave you when I left the 9th summit? Jing Ting asked. He did not immediately mention the name of the bead. Jiang Lan pondered for a moment. When Jing Ting left the 9th summit. At that time, he did give him some things. There was also a bead among these things. If he remembered correctly, the bead should be Ao Longyu's bathing scene. Thinking of this, Jiang Lan understood their purpose for coming. Especially since senior sister Lin was Ao Longyu's junior sister. He didn't ask anything and took out the bead from the red gourd. Senior brother, are you talking about this? Actually, it might be better to say that the bead was destroyed, but the other party might not believe it. If they wholeheartedly wanted to find it, it might become troublesome for him. It would be better to hand it over directly. After all, this thing did not have much value. But to the others, it might be a thorn. Lin Xia was elated when she saw the bead. Jing Ting heaved a sigh of relief as well. His junior brother from the 9th summit was rather introverted, and he indeed would not sell such things. Otherwise, who knew how long they would have to search? Anyway, he knew that Lin Xia had searched for many years before finding this place. Lin Xia immediately took the pearl and said, "We want to take this back. Junior brother, you can tell us what compensation you need." Naturally, they would not take it by force. That would cause them a lot of trouble. There was nothing wrong with small fights between the summits, but the ninth summit was different. The ninth summit had just one disciple and the summit leader of the ninth summit valued him highly. Compensation. Jianlan actually didn't need any compensation. After all, this thing didn't have any value to begin with. He would accept whatever they were willing to give him. It was just to not owe each other anything. They would not have to interact much in the future. Lin Xia was originally very happy, but when she checked the bead, she was suddenly stunned. Om, the smile froze on her face. She looked at Jianlan and asked. Junior brother, have you seen the contents? Jing Ting was shocked. He immediately said. When I gave it to junior brother Jiang, it was still in an unopened state. Junior brother Jiang, you have to tell the truth. Jianlan looked at Lin Xia and Jing Ting and said. I thought that there must be something fishy about what's inside. I was only trying to confirm it. He was speaking the truth. When he received the bead, he knew that this bead was not ordinary. However, after he saw the contents, he realized that the content was nothing much. Dragon scales were considered clothes, right? Junior brother, you can take the bead. Lin Xia handed the pearl to Jianlan and continued. We'll come back another day. By the way, please don't lose the bead, junior brother. After Jianlan held the bead, Lin Xia ran away. She had to go back and find out more. Jing Ting also ran away. Jianlan didn't understand what these people were doing. But this bead seems to be troublesome. Looking at the bead in his hand, Jianlan had this feeling. But it shouldn't be an exaggeration, so there was nothing to be concerned about. As for coming over another day, if he did not leave the mountain, these people would not be able to find him. He didn't care when they would come. If they met, they met. If they didn't, there was nothing he could do either. After putting away the bead, Jianlan walked outside. This time, he planned to visit the Kunlun disciples' place of cultivation. Perhaps he could find a way to lure out the person in the dark. As long as he knew the other party's cultivation level, it would be enough. He had no idea what was going on currently. This made him feel unsafe. If there was really no other way, he could only bring the immortal binding rope, Pseudo, out of Kunlun to give it a try. Fortunately, the other party did not dare to go to the ninth summit. Jianlan walked all the way to the place where the Kunlun disciples cultivated their spells. He walked for a long time, passing by some crowded places. However, he did not notice that person's appearance. Just as he was about to arrive, he finally felt someone staring at him from behind. He didn't care. He pretended not to know. It had been like this for the past few years. But why didn't the other party conceal anything this time? It seemed to be right behind him. Did the person not bother hiding anymore? Something's not right. Jianlan felt that it was different from before. There's something wrong with this person's gaze. Not only does this person have no malicious intent, but this person's gaze seems somewhat indecisive. Is this person hesitating? This was completely different from before. Moreover, he could hear footsteps. As long as he tried to sense the other party, he could sense the person's cultivation. Mid-stage essence soul realm. The other party was right behind him, and he couldn't continue pretending anymore. Then, he stopped and looked back. Jianlan frowned. It was a little girl. She had a high ponytail and was wearing blue and white clothes. Her eyes were big and very cute. Seeing Jianlan looking over, the other party was a little nervous, but she didn't shy away. What is it? Jianlan asked. He was sure that he had never seen this little girl before and did not think that she was the person who had followed him previously. Their level of tracking was completely different. However, Jianlan did not let down his guard. The other party might be well versed in the art of disguise. This little girl was following him so blatantly that it would be hard for him not to notice. Thus, he could only take the initiative to ask. "You're the junior brother of the ninth summit?" The little girl quickly calmed down and asked. "Yes, senior sister is." Jianlan asked. He didn't know who the other party was at all. As for the fact that this senior sister looked like a child, he was not surprised by it. The vast grand desolate world was filled with all sorts of wonders. As some people cultivated, they became smaller and smaller. Some were because of their divine powers, some were because of their race, while some were because of their cultivation techniques. Let alone senior sister, the possibility of the little girl being a senior granny was very high. "I am a disciple of the third summit." The little girl paused as if she had swallowed something before continuing. "Master and the rest call me Xiaoyu." As she spoke, she took out the third summit's token. She was indeed a disciple of the third summit. "Why is senior sister looking for me?" Jianlan asked. Third summit. He was very sure that he had no grudges with the third summit. Or rather, he had no grudges with anyone in the entire sect. Even his interactions with his fellow disciples were rare. There shouldn't be anyone who would cause trouble for him for no reason. At most, there would be people who couldn't stand how quickly his cultivation advanced. But it did not matter. However, it was hard to say if there were any spies in the third summit. He had a grudge against spies. He had accidentally killed many of them. It was mainly because those people refused to let him off. "Where does junior brother intend to go?" Xiaoyu asked. "I was intending on just walking around," Jianlan replied. He did not know the other party's motive, so he did not intend to say anything more. So far, the person who had tailed him had not appeared. This little girl was very likely the person. Chapter 99. Seclusion to advance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. Seclusion to advance. This little girl looked to be at the mid-stage essence soul realm, but since Jianlan could hide his cultivation, the possibility of others hiding their cultivation wasn't low either. Furthermore, he did not know this Xiaoyu from the third summit at all. It did not seem like she was here to chat. No matter how one looked at it, it was more likely that she was the person in the dark. Since the person could not do it in the dark, perhaps the person had decided to do it openly instead. "Junior brother, have you reached the perfected golden core realm?" Xiaoyu asked. Jianlan nodded without answering. He had never concealed his cultivation on the surface, so normal people could tell. Of course, it was impossible to do so if one's cultivation was too low. Xiaoyu walked beside Jianlan. She hesitated and asked. "Junior brother, do you know any senior sisters or junior sisters of the third summit?" Jianlan glanced at the little girl. He really didn't understand what she was here for. If it was just an ordinary question, he could answer it. But this might not be an ordinary question. Although there was no problem at the moment. "I have seen senior sister Ao and senior sister Lin before." He had seen these two before. "What about the first summit?" Xiaoyu nodded and asked again. "I have seen senior brother Jingting and senior brother Gu Qi from the first summit before," Jianlan replied calmly. These were just some ordinary questions. He wasn't annoyed by them either. Actually, he knew of the names of these people only after he had heard of them through the others' discussions. Whenever he went out for a walk, he would hear someone mention their name once or twice. From there, he had an impression of them. As Xiaoyu walked on the road, she did not speak immediately. Instead, she lowered her head and played with her fingers. Jianlan looked at the other party and didn't say anything else. "Senior sister, is there anything else?" This senior sister was very small and very cute. If she walked together with him and went to a crowded place, he would be easily noticed. If that happened, who knew what kind of trouble would arise? although he really wanted to lure out the person in the dark. However, he never wanted to be the center of attention when he went out. Especially since his fame from the Heavenly Human Races Challenge had finally faded. Therefore, if there was nothing else, he wanted to go nearby alone to take a look. Not with a kid. Yes. Xiao Yu thought for a while before replying. Did junior brother Jing Ting give something to junior brother? Give something. Jiang Lan looked at the other party and asked curiously. What is it exactly? It's something related to senior sister Ao. Xiao Yu couldn't open her mouth, but she still tried her best to explain. It's a kind of recording Dharma treasure. When she heard this, Jiang Lan understood that it was the bathing scene. Why was everyone asking him for the bathing scene today? There was nothing in that scene, right? This. Jiang Lan took out the bead and asked. No matter what, since someone had come looking for him for it, there was no need for him to keep it anymore. After all, it was easy for people to pay too much attention to him if he kept being approached. Can I see it? Xiao Yu asked. She didn't immediately extend her hand, but rather waited for Jiang Lan to agree. After Jiang Lan nodded, she reached out and took the bead. She quickly checked. Junior brother, have you seen it? Xiao Yu asked Jiang Lan softly. Is there a problem? Jiang Lan asked. Well, not much of a problem. Xiao Yu lowered her head and answered. There was indeed no problem. It was not like there was anything special inside. Then, Xiao Yu looked at Jiang Lan and said. Junior brother, can you sell this to me? I've got. Xiao Yu touched her waist and realized that she had forgotten to bring her storage Dharma treasure out. Junior brother, can you wait for me for a while? I'll go back and get the items, Xiao Yu said. Jiang Lan had originally planned to agree. Although this item wasn't useful, since the other party had offered him something in exchange, he wouldn't reject the other party's offer. However, that gaze had appeared again. Maybe next time. Give it to me next time. Jiang Lan turned around and left. He did not take the bead with him. Now that it had been retrieved, the people of the third summit would probably not look for him anymore. Jiang Lan did not take this matter to heart. He was more concerned about the person in the dark. Since this person was here, the little girl was no longer a suspect. After Jiang Lan left, Xiao Yu looked at Jiang Lan. She wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she still accepted it and walked straight back. Hopefully, she was able to send the items over in time. Jiang Lan walked towards a crowded area once again. He wanted to lure this person out and take a look. However, when he arrived at a crowded place, the gaze disappeared again. What happened? This was the first time something like this had happened. The other party had given up. Jiang Lan wasn't in a hurry. He merely strolled around and looked around for a while. The gaze still did not appear. Before long, Jiang Lan decided to return. Perhaps the other party would appear on the way back. For the past few years, he had mostly walked. Only on certain days would he fly on his sword. He still chose to walk today. When he reached the woods, he saw an animal nailed to a tree ahead. It was a rabbit. Jiang Lan didn't seem to care. His path back was fixed and rarely deviated. After walking for a while, he saw another animal fixed to a tree. This time it was a pig. Jiang Lan frowned. It was normal to encounter it once, but not the second time. Is the person planning to ambush me here? Jiang Lan didn't think too much about it and walked forward step by step. He could mobilize his strength at any time. Following that, Jiang Lan saw 3 more animals nailed to the tree. Each time, the animal was different. 5 already. It doesn't feel right. Jiang Lan took another step forward. It seemed like he had to go back first. However, when he wanted to continue moving forward and return to where he came from, suddenly, he felt a force behind him. It was very obvious. Jianlan immediately retreated and turned around to look behind him. He saw a scarecrow nailed to a tree. The moment he saw the scarecrow, he had a feeling of confusion. The next moment, he recovered, but it was as if something was restraining him. Without any hesitation, Jianlan left on his sword. The person's at the early stage void refinement realm, I can fight him. Let's see if he'll make a move. The other party was good at hiding and did not expose himself. Jianlan left on his sword as he normally would. He was neither fast nor slow. However, he could feel that the restriction was still there, as if it was targeting his essence soul. If his cultivation wasn't high enough, he wouldn't have noticed it. At this moment, the spiritual suppression force in his body suddenly became frenzied. Bang! 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 The spiritual suppression force continued to assault the restriction within his body. Boom! A moment later, the restriction was taken down. However, Jianlan secretly used his one-leaf vision to prevent anyone from sensing the change. Soon, Jianlan returned to the 9th summit. He didn't chase up. It looks like his means were those things from before. It's somewhat similar to a curse technique. Jianlan felt that the other party should have already made preparations and was waiting for him to descend the mountain. That was why he disappeared midway. If he returned on his sword today, there was a certain possibility that he would be led to the forest. The other party has already made his move. It seems like I have to hurry as well. I will advance to the mid-stage void refinement realm first. Then I'll leave Kunlun to kill him. I won't be able to leave the 9th summit for the next few days. He must think that I've been cursed and won't live for long. It seems like this person really does have some relationship with the heavenly human race. Apart from the heavenly human race, there shouldn't be anyone else who wanted to kill him. Chapter 100. 30 years. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100. 30 years. The heavenly human race had secret methods that could increase one's cultivation. He had the power of 9 bulls, and even though he felt like he could clash with mid-stage void refinement realm mighty figures, he had never actually tried it before. There was no need to do so either. Jianlan didn't want to take the risk. Although the other party seemed to be in the dark, Jianlan himself was actually the one in the dark. He had the initiative. He had to be confident. His opponent's cultivation base was at the void refinement realm, the highest among all the enemies that Jianlan had encountered. Although Jianlan had his trump cards, he felt that he couldn't kill his opponent with a single fist. He felt that it wasn't safe enough. Thus, he decided to bear with it for a little while. He had already waited for 3 years. It was fine to wait another 3 years. He would leave the mountain after advancing to the mid-stage void refinement realm. There was no news of his death in the 9th summit, so his enemy should not have given up. By hiding for a few years, he could let the other party know that he was indeed very weak. And afraid of trouble. Soon after, Jianlan returned to his residence. When he saw that the Adumbra flower was as listless as ever, he took the potted plant to the netherworld cave. Then, he entered seclusion. This time, he would not leave the 9th summit until he reached the mid-stage void refinement realm. On the path where Jianlan was originally at. A little girl looked around, trying to find someone but to no avail. Then, she went to check out a few more places. But she could not find the person she was looking for. I can't find him. Looks like I'll have to wait until next time. Xiao Yu lowered her head and muttered to herself. She didn't like owing people anything. However, he should be able to return it soon. Perhaps his junior brother from the 9th summit would leave the 9th summit in a few days. She had to hurry back. Lin Xia, who was still thinking about how to explain things to senior sister, suddenly received news from her senior sister. She said that she didn't need to look for the recording bead anymore. She didn't care anymore. This puzzled her. Has senior sister grown up again? The psychological changes of the dragon race when they grew up were truly fascinating. But she was also relieved. It was morning. A magnificent sunset glow appeared in the east. Light scattered down in front of the netherworld cave. Jiang Lan's figure appeared from the cave. He looked at the sunrise without saying a word. He then began to clean up the 9th summit. At noon, he returned to the netherworld cave and continued cultivating. Spring passed and autumn came. Flowers bloomed and fell. Spring's flowers, autumn's moon, summer's sun, winter's snow. The 4 seasons alternated. 30 years passed in the blink of an eye. There were some changes in the path leading to the 9th summit. The plants and trees had been replaced countless times. The courtyard that belonged to Jiang Lan was also rebuilt this year. After more than 100 years, the house that had been renovated multiple times could no longer hold on. Jiang Lan didn't force it, ending its 100 years of persistence. The new courtyard had been built. It was personally built by Jiang Lan. Over the next 100 years, this new house of his had to face the test of wind and rain. And Jiang Lan would also rely on it to shelter himself from the wind and rain. The blazing sun rose as Jiang Lan stood in front of the new courtyard. He did not change the courtyard too much. The difference was extremely small. Perhaps it was because of nostalgia. Dong! Jiang Lan placed the vegetative egg and adumbra flower in the courtyard. For the past 30 years, the vegetative egg and the adumbra flower had not changed. The adumbra flower was as dispirited as ever. But they were all alive and strong. After watering the vegetative egg and the adumbra flower, Jiang Lan turned to look outside the 9th summit. It's been 30 years. It's time to leave Kunlun. He had been cultivating for the past 30 years. 3 years ago, he had successfully entered the mid-stage void refinement realm. In the past 3 years, he had only been consolidating his cultivation base and familiarizing himself with spell techniques. He was just a sliver away from completely mastering the power of 9 bulls. It was a pity that his body seemed to be unable to withstand it, so he had yet to master it. He had already learned the 9th step of the 9 steps of heavenly travel, but he felt that he could not fully unleash it. Jiang Lan wasn't in a hurry. As long as he slowly raised his cultivation, he should be able to figure it out. This time, Jiang Lan had prepared quite a number of Dharma treasures with high lethality and defensive power as well as runes. The current him had enough confidence to fight against the previous person who had targeted him. Of course, there was also the possibility that the other person had also reached the mid-stage void refinement realm. But Jiang Lan had the powerful Vajrapani pill. If he ate it, he might be able to break through to the power of 9 bulls. With the power of 8 bulls, he felt like he could clash with a mid-stage void refinement realm mighty figure. Once he broke through to the strength of 9 bulls, his power of 9 bulls shouldn't be any weaker than heavenly human race's secret technique. It was worth a try. There was no need to wait any longer. Now, it all depended on whether that person paid attention to him. If he didn't pay attention, he would just stroll around a crowded place. By doing so, he could lure him out of Kunlun. By then, he would be able to kill the other party. With this thought in mind, Jiang Lan walked out of the 9th summit. However, he had just taken a step when he suddenly received a message. It was from his master. Jiang Lan was a little puzzled and looked at it. One look at the message and he knew what was going on. On the surface, his cultivation had already entered the perfected golden core realm. These 30 years of seclusion had already allowed him to reach the peak of golden core. His master had prepared another trip for him to gain the experience to break through. Master is messing with my resolve again. Jiang Lan stopped thinking about it and immediately headed to the peak of the 9th summit. He was also curious about where his master would let him go this time. In fact, he always received clear benefits. Therefore, he was looking forward to it. Master, Jiang Lan called softly from behind Mo Jingdong. Do you want to go out for a stroll? Mo Jingdong was looking at the foot of the mountain when he heard of Jiang Lan's arrival. He turned to Jiang Lan and asked. Was he going to be sent on a long journey? This was Jiang Lan's first reaction. He didn't hesitate and directly rejected his master. Master, let's wait a few more years. He indeed wanted to wait for a few more years. In a few decades, it would be time for him to go out and undergo tribulation. If everything went smoothly, he felt that he could become an immortal within 100 years. The biggest problem was not advancing to the late stage of the void refinement realm, but facing the gate of immortality. The more talented one was, the easier it was for them to cross this threshold. He was more talented than ordinary people, but he was average in Kunlun. There were many difficulties. Hopefully, there would be corresponding treasures. If he received another creation of heaven and earth, it would be very easy. The Taoist scripture or the creation pill could do too. You are not going to be going on a long journey, Mo Jingdong corrected. He wanted to test his disciple. His disciple was good at everything, except that he was a little eccentric. A few decades ago, he would still often walk around Kunlun. He thought that his disciple was trying to get in touch with the outside world. However, he was wrong. Not long after, his disciple stopped going out. 30 years. His disciple did not leave for an entire 30 years. Besides going into seclusion, this disciple of his would only manage the 9th summit. Fortunately, the 9th summit was given to him to manage. Otherwise, he might not have walked out of the netherworld cave for 30 years. However, he could feel that Jiang Lan had always been working hard, definitely for the sake of achieving immortality. Then where am I going? Jiang Lan was curious. Actually, he did not want to go out, even if it was a half-day journey. You're already at the perfected golden core realm, right? Asked Mo Jingdong. I've been planning on breaking through recently. Jiang Lan nodded. He had been at the perfected golden core realm for 30 years. It was indeed time for him to break through. Do you know of the old wine tavern outside Kunlun? Yes, I've been there a few times. The old wine tavern was where Jiang Lan often bought wine. He naturally remembered. Recently, they've been rather busy and they want to hire a temporary worker. Thus, they have decided to choose one among the worst disciples from each summit. Go and see if you can get chosen, Mo Jingdong said softly. Master, the worst disciple of each summit, Jiang Lan felt that his cultivation speed was not slow. Are there any disciples worse than you on the 9th summit? Mo Jingdong asked Jiang Lan. Jiang Lan was silent.